I'm sorry, anytime you're ready.
All right, let's go ahead and
Personally, I'd like to have an open air one.
Okay, I'm sorry. Before Chair Ortiz starts, because there are 39 people on this call, I'm going to have to, and people talking over each other does a lot to, there's going to be a lot of echoing. I'm going to mute everybody unless Felipe calls their name to speak. And this way, people aren't talking over everybody. And I would also like to do a roll call again for the trustees to confirm everybody's back. Okay, Chair Ortiz.
go ahead, Allison. Go ahead and do a roll call.
And I thought I was there. Chair Ortiz.
Here.
Trustee Belbray Axelrod.
Present.
Trustee Foyt.
Present.
Trustee Benavides.
Here.
Trustee Wadley Munet.
Here.
Trustee Francis Drake.
Here.
Trustee Raymaker.
Here.
Trustee Wilson.
Present.
Trustee Melendrez.
Present.
Trustee Rogers. Okay, he may not have come back in. I have Dr. Wilson and Council Welt also on the line. I am going to mute everybody with the exception of Chair Ortiz. And when we get to specific items, I'll unmute people. So
Thank you very much. We're here today reconvening our meeting of Thursday, April 16, 2020. After from closed session. Branding and Marketing Department Director Betsy Ward. The item is an update on progress in Branding and Marketing Department project with the Simpson Coulter Studio Design. Betsy, go ahead. Welcome. Unmute.
hang on.
Go ahead. Oh, Allison, will you unmute Betsy?
Yeah, hold on just a second.
You hear me?
Yes.
Now I can hear you, and go ahead and let me the presenter button so you can share. Hang on. You have your share icon available, Betsy? There we go. Whenever you're ready, Betsy. Oops. Hang on, Betsy. I'm sorry. You're muted again.
Go ahead, unmute everybody. Allison, let's see if that works. Everybody else can hit mute.
Very sorry, but for some reason I'm not able to scroll around and find where Betsy is, and that is so I can unmute her. Can everybody? Okay, Betsy, go ahead.
There you go. Betsy, go ahead.
Can everyone hear me?
Yes, they're all muted except for you.
Okay, very good. So I know that we have a couple people on the phone. So for your benefit, I'll be calling out page numbers to turn to. It's a very short visual presentation, but I'll just help you make sure you're on the right page. So good evening, Chair Ortiz, Trustees, Council Welt, and Dr. Heesen. For the record, my name is Betsy Ward, Branding and Marketing Director. And the Branding and Marketing Department has begun the implementation of the Library District's new Free to Be branding and public education campaign. This involves the redesign of our brochures, our posters and flyers, our PowerPoint presentations, report covers, human resource materials, digital assets on our website, and our social media channels, and more. But the most high-profile implementation of the new brand is the addition of interior and exterior brand signage for all of our buildings. As part of our new brand campaign, it's important that we use signage to create a visual connection between our 25 branches, establishing that each one is part of the Las Vegas Clark County Library District. Currently, there is no visual thread that connects our libraries in the public's mind. In fact, during our focus group testing for the Free to Be campaign, we received feedback that some participants were not aware that they had a library in their neighborhood. The most efficient and cost-effective way to establish this public awareness is to create dramatic and colorful brand signage for the interiors and exteriors of our buildings. For the benefit of our newer board members, Trustee Raymaker and Trustee Rogers, who have not yet seen the campaign, I wanted to provide a very brief overview of the Free to Be campaign, which will be appearing in English and Spanish. So the new Free to Be tagline connects to 7 words that communicate our brand promise to our customers. These are free to be curious, free to be connected, free to be captivated, free to be fearless, free to be inspired, free to be a trailblazer, and free to be yourself. We also have a new logo that contains a mark which depicts symbols of people in a circle, which represent friendship, family, community, our live performances, and our valued staff, because the essence of the library is its people. The Free to Be tagline sprang in part from workshops with nearly 200 staff, along with feedback from Dr. Heesen, the EC, and the Board of Trustees. It was inspired by a 2017 New York Times interview with Librarian of Congress Carla Hayden. The headline says it all. Carla Hayden believes libraries are a key to freedom. In the article, she quotes Frederick Douglass, who said, "Once you learn to read, you will be forever free." This right of free access to information is the foundation of the Free to Be campaign. I will be on page 4. You will notice that each ad has an accompanying subhead that expands upon what we mean by each word. Then under the subhead is body copy that expands on the brand promise and that we are here to support the communities that we serve through good times and challenging times. We worked with multicultural marketing to make sure that the Free to Be campaign was translated clearly into Spanish. So first we had Free to Be curious. And the tagline is, what are you searching for? Free to be captivated. Step into our world of live music, dance, art, comedy, and magic. Free to be connected. Family exists in many forms. Free to be fearless. Believe you will succeed. Free to be inspired. Creativity lies within you. Free to be a trailblazer. You have dreams to pursue. And free to be yourself. Express your truest self. So in working with Precision Opinion, which is a market research firm, we conducted focus groups both in Spanish-dominant Latinx households and English-dominant Latinx households. To determine which branches should receive a mixture of English and Spanish language signage, we looked at 2 things. Requests that the Branding and Marketing Department have received over time from branch managers, programming, and youth services for Spanish language translations, and guidance from regional library operations managers Carlotta Dickerson and Leo Segura. Based on this feedback, the branches that will have a combination of Spanish and English language signage will be Clark County, East Las Vegas, West Las Vegas, Meadows, Mesquite, Sunrise, and Whitney. We were extremely careful about the images that we selected to illustrate each word. You will notice, or you had noticed from looking at the campaign, that in each creative execution, we showed diverse faces, genders, and ages doing activities in the library other than reading. That is because the word library already represents books and reading, and our goal is to redefine the word library to mean books and so much more. We're on page 11. So without further ado, I want to share with you a sample of the signage that we have worked on in collaboration with Simpson Culture Studio, drawn directly from our new Free to Be campaign. So these 5 banners are templates that represent the various different creative executions that you're going to be seeing on the different buildings. So each one, except the logo, are also available in Spanish, and we will mix and match these on the designated buildings. So the word welcome, our various Free to Be executions using the 7 words, a breakout of our person symbol from the logo, a spotlight on the logo itself, and a spotlight on the library's name. You will also notice our brand colors, which are the colors of our beautiful desert environment, 2 brights and 2 darks, fuchsia and gold with plum and royal blue, which work together in a variety of combinations. And finally, we wanted to show you an example of how our libraries will look transformed by this new signage. We worked closely with Simpson Culture Studio to select the right images for the right neighborhoods where they will appear. So let me share with you. So starting with Clark County, this is the parking lot side, the main entrance. And all of the parking lots that have light poles will have these banners. And then the Flamingo side and the theater entrance. And then here are some interiors. East Las Vegas Library. So you'll see on the far left of the plaza, there's on that side and the other side you're about to see will be a combination of English and Spanish messaging. And on the right side, you'll see welcome. You can barely see it, but it's in Spanish. We weren't able to do anything on the poles here because of the light fixtures on them, but there will be banners in the parking lot. The interiors. Rainbow Library, this is parking lot side and the main entrance. And this is Cheyenne. So as people go by, we're told that a lot of people don't realize that that's a library. So now they'll have no question. Interiors, Rainbow. West Las Vegas, the main entrance. And the theater entrance. And some interiors. Sahara West. We wanted to make a grand presentation in that large plaza. So those signs are among our largest, and you can see what the parking lot looks like. And this is the median strip in between the 2 sides of Sahara in front of the library that already have hardware on them from in the past. I'm sorry, was there a question? Oh, sorry, I heard someone speaking. So in the past, when we had done signage on the light poles on Sahara West, so that hardware does belong to us. And we do have some precedent in having signage there. So we're hoping that the zoning board will welcome us with open arms. This is the lobby. This is off to the left when you first enter the library. And we're not showing you everything, like everywhere where you're going to see signage. We're just giving you a sample, give you a flavor of it. Reader services area. And our outline branches. So Mesquite. And the side facing the parking lot, as well as the front view as you come to the front door. Interior. Learning Center. And this is a great example of some of our very smaller libraries and how this campaign is easily adaptable to really any space. Searchlight. Sandy Valley. And we thank you. The invitation to bid was advertised on March 29th, 2020, and the bid opening date is actually tomorrow, April 17th. We will have a recommendation for the board to consider at the meeting on Tuesday, April 28th. And now I would like to introduce Samiki Savicic from Simpson Culture Studio, who will share with you their role in this process.
Is everybody able to hear me okay just before I start? Can you see me okay? Good. Okay. I see thumbs up. All right. Let me get started here. I want to thank you, Betsy, first for the thorough overview. And I want to give a big thanks to the branding and marketing department for all of their collaboration on this effort also. And I want to thank the board for their time and attention tonight as I talk through some of these steps that we took to bring this project to where it is today. As Betsy said, my name is Smiki Savicic, and I was the project manager on this project, led by our firm's principal, Sean Coulter. And when we began this project in October, we worked closely with Betsy to identify the scope through clear objectives and all of the desired outcomes. And I want to go through some of those. So the first thing was that the implementation of the brand through exterior signage should be readily visible. It should be very dramatic, and it should be inviting also. The second thing was that the interior of each branch should have enough brand reinforcement to provide unity of this new identity throughout the entire district from the moment that one enters the branch to the moment that they exit. Next, we also decided that the signage really needs to be proportional to the scale of each branch, which is obviously going to vary from branch to branch. And the next thing is that the infrastructure that would house this signage, so all of the hardware that gets installed should be durable and easy to maintain while still remaining flexible enough to be able to accommodate for any renovations or changes that are made to the space. The last thing that we wanted to stress was that these design solutions should be cost effective so as to allow the district to update the signage as needed in the future. So understanding that this brand implementation needed to carry through each branch district-wide, we then created a project schedule that was composed of tasks that would ensure our approach was thorough and also informed. A big part of this was a site study exercise completed throughout the entire district. So I visited each of the 25 branches to gain a holistic understanding of the conditions at each location. And these site visits consisted of overall walkthroughs through the spaces, during which I photographed all of the spaces at various angles so that we can use them later when we develop the actual designs. And I also had interviews with each of the branch managers to gain insight from the actual people that understand these spaces best. These interview questions were also developed in tandem with the branding and marketing department, and we found that they uncovered some of the human characteristics that are found at each branch. So things like the spirit of community and the diversity of the customers, some of the unique tone of each of the interactions at each branch. They also uncovered opportunities for optimizing certain processes or spatial characteristics, and that's information that we're sure is going to be useful in the future for any kind of renovations or operational decisions that may be made moving forward. So with the wealth of information that I gathered during these site visits, we then moved into the design development phase, which was a collaborative effort between Simpson Coulter and the branding and marketing team. What this did was it allowed us to pool everyone's expertise so that we could address the arrangement and the development of the necessary signage. What we developed was driven by the main objectives of this project, and the signage package features the brand's bold colors, as you just saw, along with vibrant and diverse faces with messages of opportunity and exploration. Featured at various sizes in both small and large formats. We chose various attachment methods that simultaneously provide a contemporary design and a sleek look, but also ensure minimal effects at the attachment sites for easy relocation, also maintenance. Our material choices for each piece were optimized for both interior and exterior usage, and they also prioritize durability, longevity, and maintenance. In taking care of the variety of sizes that were necessary for the different locations because of the drastically different scales, we opted for standard measurements as much as possible, which would allow the district to provide bold expression where it was needed, but it would also allow for ease of fabrication as new campaigns might be developed. This method of standardization also allowed us to create the various iterations that are necessary to address the very unique characteristics found at each branch. Next, the actual location of each piece of signage was decided according to the physical characteristics of each space. Some of these examples include taking care to keep each piece out of easy reach, keeping signage away from interference with any air supply or sprinkler systems, and also ensuring that the signage doesn't block any views or any natural lighting that's coming into each of the buildings. Other examples like the exterior signs found at some of the larger urban branches also address challenges with branch recognition, and they strive to invite customers into those branches where they maybe were not previously aware that there was an actual library there. We also researched the signage codes that were applicable for each jurisdiction so that we could determine our size standards. And we also know that permits are going to have to be obtained for all of the exterior signage. We are aware that certain locations, like the Sahara West Library and the Summerlin Library, for example, are going to require additional approval by their HOA jurisdictions. Through our vast experience working with all of the local building departments, we also understand all of the different processes that are required for obtaining permits at each different jurisdiction, which is a process that can begin after contract award. Finally, the design of this package was codified in the construction documents that were used for bidding. And these documents also come with a complete list of specifications of where each sign is going to be located, what the dimensions are, all of our material and hardware specs, and also the images that are going to be on each piece. What this does is it allows this set of drawings to also serve as the guide for when the signage package goes to be fabricated, and then during the installation also at each branch. So I just want to close by saying that we really believe that the signage package offers the district an elegant solution for implementing this exciting new brand. It also offers the district an opportunity to maybe mitigate certain challenges at each location that have to do with recognizability of each branch, and also providing a unifying theme that would connect each location throughout the district. It was certainly a large undertaking, but we're confident that our collaborative approach to this task will enliven each of the spaces that so many members of our community rely on for critical resources that offer them maximal enrichment.
Thank you very much. This was an item for discussion only. Let me go down the list real quick.
And Chair Ortiz, I'm going to have to unmute people as you go down the list. So be patient.
Actually, go ahead and unmute everybody so we can get through this as quick as we can.
Okay, I'm gonna unmute the trustees. Give me a second.
Okay, Trustee Ilbury Axelrod, do you have any questions or comments?
I appreciate the information that was given, and I kind of wish we would have seen it a lot earlier, because I just wonder if in these times, if this is a good use of money that could be used for different projects. I went into it, and I know it's gone through RP, or it's closing tomorrow. I think you. But I'm just not sure that I feel comfortable fiscally moving forward. I guess we'll talk at next meeting, but I just wanted to get that on the record.
Thank you, Trustee Melendres.
Is that for me?
Yes, any questions or comments?
No, none at this time, but I agree with the issue of where we might be spending money here in the next couple of weeks, so.
Okay. Trustee Elizabeth Foy, any questions or comments?
I concur with the two previous trustees' comments. It's tough to think about spending this money, even though we've already invested a lot, going forth, not knowing quite what our path is yet.
I don't know. This could go another hour.
Thank you very much. Trustee Benavides, any questions or comments?
I'm actually agreeing with the rest of the board. I think we're all feeling the same sentiments on we might have to put a hold on this.
Trustee Rogers, any questions or comments? Trustee Wilson, any comments?
The rest of the board, right now, it's painful, but we have no choice but to pause on everything we can pause.
Thank you very much. Trustee Raymaker, any questions or comments for either one?
I think the advertising, I think what they've done is a great job, and it certainly would add where people are having a hard time locating some of our libraries and plotting them. I have to agree as well. It's such a tough time to be spending money in that direction, but great job. Appreciate all the hard work.
Any questions or comments?
I'm going to have to agree. And also the image that it might project to the public if we come out with some, this fabulous program that we've been looking at for months now. And then, they find out that we've furloughed or laid off or done something here or there with our employees and so on. It might be a negative thing for us.
Thank you. Trustee Robin Wadley Munier.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I thank you very much for the presentation, and I'm very excited that we have this and that we've moved into this next phase. As I've always been one who's been concerned about expenditures and stuff, I'm just excited that we have this, and when the time is right, that we will be able to implement it as quickly as possible, because it is overdue, and we do need to have our libraries all in unison, looking as one, and I think we've all been looking forward to this opportunity. And again, as the situation finds itself to where we can do this, I'm excited that this will move forward at that time. And thank you again for the hard work and hours put into this.
Thank you very much, Betsy and everybody else on the team. Fantastic. I love it. It's great. We'll see where we're at on this. But the marketing, the imagery, the colors, it's going to really make a difference. Thank you very much. Okay, let's move on to the next item.
Excuse me. Somebody has dishes clinking or clanging or something going on in the background that is very distracting. I don't know who has it in their video or phone, but I appreciate if that's in mute.
The next item that we have on the agenda is approval.
Can I please, about Trustee Wadley Munay's comment, if you are on, I have to unmute everybody. If you are on the computer, I would not speaking, mute yourself because I think that will eliminate a lot of the background.
Thank you. Let me repeat. Allison said if you're on this meeting, please mute. At the very bottom, please mute yourself at this time.
This is Trustee Wilson. I'm just looking down the chat list. I think it's Trustee Raymakers that's unmuted that's coming through.
Thank you very much. Okay, if we can move on. The next item is approval of proposed minutes. And I believe we have November 14, 2019. Is that correct, Allison?
Yes, that is correct.
Hopefully everybody had an opportunity to take a look at that and those present. At this time, if I can entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the regular session of November 14, 2019. Go ahead and unmute, Allison.
Trustee Wilson, so moved.
Trustee Wilson moves to approve the proposed minutes for
Second.
November 14, 2019. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Robin Wadley Munier. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay, motion carries. Thank you very much. At this time, I don't have a chair's report. But Ron is, if we go to the library, your report, Ron?
Hold on.
Just a couple of things to mention before I'm going to leave most of my report what I've submitted to you in writing, but a couple of things I wanted to talk about. As you know, we're going to have a much expanded list of topics for our board meeting on the 28th. And we're going to have a lot of talking that day, so we probably want to set aside a good chunk of time. The reason we chose WebEx, I don't know if you saw any of the publicity recently about Zoom, but evidently they've been compromised and data is being sold over the internet, over the dark web for personal information, and it's getting to the point where it's sort of ridiculous. And we've been assured by our IT people that the Cisco WebEx is a good alternative, so I'm hoping this is working for everybody. We had some thanks to go out, as usual, to Allison and to, Brian Zawistowski. You're not seeing him tonight. You can wave, Brian. But he and his team are working very hard to make sure this is getting out appropriately. And of course, without the great support of Al Prendergast, we wouldn't have had this meeting. So Al, thank you very much. And also thank you for your input on WebEx and Allison, your input as well. So that's really all that I have to offer this evening. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Okay, at this time, I'll go ahead, Trustee Bilbrey-Axelrod.
Thank you. And I appreciate the concern with Zoom. I will say that I'm on about 5 of these a day, everything from the feds all the way down to the state and local municipality, and everyone is using Zoom. I especially think with a public meeting that isn't a concern. I think it was a privacy issue that some people were sharing stuff. So I don't know. I know I have as many as I do of these a day. This kind of has seemed the most problematic of them for, in my opinion. So just wanted to get.
This is Trustee Jose. Just FYI, the Zoom works fine as long as you have it protected with a password. So you can set up a Zoom meeting as long as you have a password. That's where the ones that have been open meetings. I know the school district got into trouble with that because they were running open meetings without any passwords, and that's where people were able to hack and all that other kind of stuff. So Zoom works if you use it with a password.
Thank you very much. At this time, if there's anybody who would like to call up any item from the library reports. I do have a question on, I'm not sure which report I saw, but this is probably for IT and for Betsy, probably. I saw where it said the staff was not on email from the library. Is that correct? Our library staff did not have access to their email. Is that correct?
That is correct. Jen Chember might want to also address that.
I believe this is going to be in more of Al's area, but not all of our library staff have remote access to email. So most of our administrative staff, pretty much, yeah, the majority of our administrative staff have the email access, but our branch staff do not have email access.
Okay, so the question that I have is a safety question, and you don't have to give me an answer here. How do we know they're still alive? How do we know they're healthy? Who's been calling them? Have they checked in? When's the last time somebody talked to them? Please prepare something for our April 28th meeting.
Okay, so just real quick. So as far as the library I can speak for library operations staff. It's about 600 of our employees. So we are communicating, I'm communicating with my branch managers on a weekly basis, and the branch managers are communicating to all of their department heads, and then they're communicating to their staff members. So they are receiving weekly updates. We are checking in on them, and we receive updates from them as well.
Okay, still the same question. I'd like to know an answer on the 28th for every department. Okay, it's really important. We're all in this together. Thank you very much. And then, yeah, I think that's something that probably needs to be corrected, Al. We need to figure that out. If we're using technology to reach people, we really need to figure out if we need to lend out technology to our own employees first. Thank you very much. If there's no other questions on library reports, does anybody have any questions on library reports? Okay, at this time, let's move to the next item, unfinished business. There is none.
Chair Ortiz, for some reason, some of these folks are muting and unmuting. So
How would you like to deal with it, Allison?
I don't know.
Okay, just leave everybody unmuted, okay? Okay, the next item, we have new business. Discussion for action regarding entering into a lease agreement for a building space at the Blue Diamond Library. And who's speaking on that? Steve?
Yes, good evening, everyone. The district has been leasing the current space for the Blue Diamond Library since 1992. The initial lease spanned 20 years. Then in April of 2012, the district entered into the current lease agreement for the 1,440 square feet of building space. The initial term of the current agreement was for 2 years, with the option to renew for 3 additional 2-year terms. In May of 2018, the district exercised the third and final 2-year renewal option that expires April 30th of this year. Staff is recommending that a new lease agreement be entered into for the current location in order to continue providing library services within the Blue Diamond community. Staff has negotiated the following primary terms and conditions with Daniel Thomas, the building owner, subject to board approval. The initial term shall be for 2 years with an option to renew for 3 additional 2-year terms. Monthly rental amount during the initial term shall remain the same as the current amount of $1,468, and this was something that I did negotiate with Mr. Thomas, given the current circumstances that we're facing, and he was very receptive to that. Upon renewal, there may, at the owner's discretion, be an increase that reflects the change in CPI, Consumer Price Index, all living consumers for the previous term, and the proportionate increase in property taxes, if any, during the previous term. And that's what those 2 increases are what we would have been really negotiating heading into this extension, and he's foregoing any type of increases, as I mentioned. The owners to provide fire and casualty insurance on the premises. Library district will be responsible for its contents and liability within the lease space. The owner is responsible for maintaining the building exterior to include walls, roof, mechanical systems, parking lots, and grounds. The library district is responsible for maintaining the interior of the lease space. The Lease document shall include all terms and conditions and other typical language recommended and approved by council. Staff will present to the Board of Trustees its recommendation regarding exercising future renewal options prior to the expiration of the then current term. So it is staff's recommendation that we enter into this new lease agreement for that space for the Blue Diamond Library.
Very much. Trustee Foy, do you have any questions? You can unmute him. Trustee Foy?
I'm gonna unmute all the.
Okay, I get to talk now? Okay. No, I don't have any questions for Mr. Rice, but I would like to compliment him on working through this. It sounds like a terrific arrangement, and thank you.
You're welcome.
Chair, I have a question.
Yes.
This is Trustee Bill Brayaxor.
Actually, let me go down the list if I can.
Sure.
Thank you. Marilyn Francis Drake, any questions?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Trustee Wilson, do you have any questions or comments?
Yeah, just two quick ones to get on the record. The lease price seems very reasonable. Nice that the owners have agreed for no increase, but what are the CAM charges with this property? Do we know what those are running currently?
No, there are no additional CAM expenses.
There are no additional CAM. Okay, well, that makes the second question less painful then. The CPI, is this a one-way street or a two-way street? Meaning that consumer price index goes up, we pay an increase, consumer price index goes down. Do we get that back, or is it just a one-way street?
Well, that's a good question. Probably right now it's a one-way street only because I'm not sure I've ever seen a negative CPI on our lease extensions. Now that may have happened, but it's never come into play before. But I suppose it's all negotiated, right, at the start, just like it was this time.
You know, and maybe for the next renewal, as a mental back note, I know that for myself and my own businesses, I was able to get that in during our last recession. So something just to keep in mind for the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bill Brayaxor, go ahead.
Thank you. A couple of questions. One, can you remind me, is this the only library space that we lease? Or do we have any other leases?
The only other leases that we have are with the other public entities, and they're the $1 a year type leases. This is the only building that we're leasing from a private party.
Okay. So that was my first question. My second question is just because of the uncertainty that we're coming into right now. What if we had to close a library? I mean, I shudder to think about that because we've weathered so much, but like, wouldn't it make sense to close a library that we don't own in a small community? And I love Blue Diamond. No, but I'm just trying to think, through what we're going through, which is, keeps me up at night on many different levels. And then if we weren't to sign that 2-year lease, I mean, what would if we kicked the can down the road a little bit, what would a month-to-month situation look like? I'm just asking.
Well, just to put it in perspective a little bit, the original lease agreement was, it spanned 20 years, and that lease was structured with an initial term of 5 years with 3 5-year renewal options. In 2012, we were still stinging a little bit from the recession, and at that time, for the same reasons that you're mentioning, brought this lease down to 2-year increments so that we weren't committing long-term. 2 years, it sounds like a long time, but it's really not when you're dealing with something like this. I don't think by the time you make the decision, by the time you close a community library, which I think would be a tough decision for everybody to make. But these agreements, once you're through the initial term, I guess technically they go month to month, short of the landlord not agreeing to that. So I guess to answer your question, I don't know. It sounds like you're suggesting just a month-to-month lease now. I'm not sure.
I'm not suggesting it. I was just, I just get all options on.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there, Trustee Axelrod, any other questions?
Yeah. And I appreciate that comment because you're right. 2 years does seem like a long time. I think we're all just in like pandemic brain where a month ago, my life was, all of our lives were vastly different. So I think that's where I'm coming from.
Thank you very much. Trustee Rogers, is there any questions or comments? Trustee Robin Wadley Munier, is there any questions or comments?
No, I think it's a great contract, and I appreciate the efforts that went into negotiating this, and I appreciate the landlord for actually, being so considerate. And I'd be happy to make the motion if the time is right. Trustee
Melendres, is there any questions or comments?
None at this time. Thank you.
Trustee Benavides, any questions or comments?
No questions or comments.
All right, let me entertain a motion. Please go ahead.
Okay, I'd like to make the motion. Okay, I move to authorize staff to enter into a lease agreement for a building space for the Blue Diamond Library for a term of 2 years, beginning May 1st, 2020, at a monthly rental amount of $1,468.00, subject to renewal by council.
Is there a second?
Excuse me, review by council. I misread that. Sorry, I should keep my glasses on. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Shannon, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Aye from everybody. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Moving on to new business. We have a presentation discussion regarding the reopening of the County Las Vegas Library District with temporary operating procedures. I'm sorry. I skipped one. Let's go to back. We have a discussion, possible board action to extend the closing of the Las Vegas Clark County Library District past April 16th, 2020. Ron?
I'm sorry. Are we going to did we skip B?
We just voted on, I'm sorry. I'm looking at it again. Thank you, Ellison. Let's go back. Discussion for possible board action regarding authorization to joinder onto Clark County's contract with FHN Main Street Advisors, LLC, for investment advisory services. And the Finance and Audit Committee just heard this. Please go ahead. Thank you, Ellison.
This is Kelly Benavides. I chaired that committee. I'm going to go ahead and let Fred take this one, and I'll be happy to make the motion when appropriate.
Thank you.
I think everyone was there at the meeting, but we'll go back over it. This is just a joiner to the Clark County investment advisor, and the Main Street advisors provide us at a fairly good rate investment advice during these particular times. We're only talking about $300,000 at this particular time. We have been as high as $10 or $12 million, but at this particular time we're pretty down low, and our fees are pretty reasonable, very reasonable.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions at this time? This item was a ministerial item for public entities. Trustee Benavides, will you make the motion?
Yes. Motion to authorize staff to join her into Clark County contracts with FHN Financial Main Street Advisors LLC for investment advisory services through December 31st, 2022, and to authorize staff to extend the contract for up to 2 years, 1-year periods, subject to funding being available and the contract continuing to meet performance standards outlined in the contract agreement.
Thank you very much. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second.
Who was that? Trustee Ford or Trustee Robin Wadley Bunier?
It was
Robin jumped in front of me.
Trustee Robin Wadley Bunier
Sorry,
seconds.
Elizabeth.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Nobody opposed, motion carries. Thank you very much. Item number C, under new business. Discussion and possible board action to extend the closing of the Las Vegas Clark County Library District past April 16, 2020. Ron, is that you or is that Jen?
I'm still looking for the item on the agenda. Hang on just a minute. It went.
Sure, take your time.
My pages are blank here, so.
You have to keep going. That's the same on mine. Just keep flipping until you get to it.
Okay.
It's going to be page 161 on the bottom of notation.
Okay. That's the different thing on mine. So the presentation discussion regarding the reopening.
A page or two, Ron.
What's that?
Skip up a page or two.
Page 160.
116. Okay.
No. 160. 160.
Okay, I've got it now. Basically, what we're asking here is just that we wait until we see what the health district and the governor is saying. Today, the president came out and said that the governors all have their own authority for each of their states. And so we're just saying if the governor says we open at a certain time, then we need to start implementing and moving in that direction. We're sort of gearing up toward a May 4th opening at this point. But at the same time, we know that that could extend, and we just want the board to say we're okay with what the governor and the health districts are telling us.
Okay, let's go down the list here. Does Trustee Melendez, go ahead, Ron.
I think that Trustee Wilson had some comments and some questions.
Sure, let me go down the list here, okay?
Okay.
Sorry, so I don't miss anybody. And I'm doing it in reverse, as you can see. Trustee Melendez, did you have any questions, comments?
No, just I agree. We need to, whatever the governor says, we need to follow those orders.
Thank you very much. Trustee Foyt, did you have any questions or comments?
I would just say that I think that date that you mentioned is premature. I'm going to stick with what the governor says, but it's very premature.
I think it might be, but at the same time, I'm hoping that around, and we're ready to open it as soon as possible, but at the same time, we don't want to endanger either our customers or our staff.
Thank you. Trustee Robin Wadley Bunier, do you have any questions or comments?
I do. What exactly do we have in line? I don't have anything that says what we will do when we open.
We'll discuss that as our next item of business, and I think, are you on a phone call or are you on?
I'm on a phone call. Mm-hmm.
Okay, Allison is going to send that to you directly, and actually send it to each of the board members, Allison.
No, she's already sent it to me. I mean, I already got it. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Trustee Raymaker, do you have any questions or comments?
I just believe that we need to follow whatever the governor says, that we just continue with, we'll open when the governor agrees that it's a proper time for us, and follow those directions.
Thank you very much. Trustee Wilson, do you have any questions or comments?
I do. A couple of things quickly is I'm a little uncomfortable with setting a date, especially contingent upon both schools and business. What I fully expect what we'll be getting from our state in the weeks to come is partial reopenings in phases. I also expect the school year to be flat out called off. Just a personal opinion at this point, but us holding the library in lockdown indefinitely with schools as a contingency tied to that and business, when there's ways we can start partially reopening scaled throughout the weeks and months ahead, I'd like to see that not such a dead tie in to a full reopening of school and business, and just be a little bit more flexible on this, that when the government allows, or sorry, when the governor allows non-essential business to start opening, whether that be through pickup service or limited contact service, that we have that option available to us to open in limited fashions and scale up without having to wait for a full reopening.
Thank you very much, Trustee Wilson. Trustee Bilberry Axelrod.
Thank you, Chair. It is not anecdotal to me. I've been told on several authorities that school will not be opening again this year at many levels of recommendation. So I agree with you. I do think, and I know we are discussing this in our next session, but I feel like we should be scanning people's temperature on the way in. If we are to get to that point where we're opening in some capacity, we need to check people for symptoms on the way in. So, once again, get that on the record.
We can move this item after the last one.
All right, go ahead, Trustee Wilson.
I'm sorry, maybe we can move this agenda after I let everybody comment, but maybe I would suggest we vote on this agenda item after hearing the more on the plan to reopen. Might be more appropriate.
This isn't a motion, or is it a motion?
Well, this one would be a motion.
It's a motion.
Okay, we've already opened it for discussion. I'm not sure if we can move it.
Move to table after the next item.
Okay, let me go through discussion still. Trustee Rogers, any questions or comments if he's not on the line?
On the line.
Trustee Benavides, any questions or comments?
I do have some questions, so I would agree to maybe table it because I think my questions would be more appropriate when we're talking about the implementation of reopening.
Thank you very much. Trustee Melendres, do you have any questions or comments?
Not at this time. I agree. Let's pick up the next conversation. I think then we'll be better suited to have the conversation.
Thank you. I have a couple of quick comments. I'm still very concerned. We don't have a plan. We need to manage expectations. If we're expecting to have a testing, last thing I read, it takes 15 minutes to collect a test, 15 minutes to determine what the test is, an hour to get it there, 2 hours times 3.9 million. It's probably not going to happen. So we need to manage expectations. I think this is going to happen very quick. So what are we doing to get that done? We're really behind the curve here. And what we do is it's called stress tests. What are we going to do to get it open? And if that doesn't work, we change the model. So having said that, what I heard is that somebody wants to table it this time. Can we have a motion to table this agenda item?
This is Trustee Wilson. I move to table agenda item C to after the next item.
Trustee Benavides, I second that.
Okay, Trustee Benavides second. All in favor to table?
Aye.
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 Okay, let's go on to the next item. Presentation and discussion regarding the reopening of the Las Vegas Clark County Library District with temporary operating procedures, guidelines, and safety measures as a result of the COVID-19 global pandemic.
Can we
And
get
in
everyone
conjunction
again? There's a lot of feedback.
in conjunction with the Nevada Governor Sisolak's and Southern Nevada Health District guidelines. Go ahead, Ron.
I'm going to turn this over to Jen Schender. Our team has really led the charge on this, and I think they've done an excellent job of anticipating what we need to prepare, how we need to prepare, and for whom we need to prepare. And I think that Jen, again, tell your team how much we appreciate them, and please go ahead.
Okay, for the record, Jennifer Schember, Library Operations Director. Good evening, everyone. As you know, today marks 1 month since the Library District closed its doors per the Governor's emergency declaration. We are currently planning our tentative reopening based on a phased opening. Several of you have mentioned earlier. During the past month, we've been collaborating with other library systems locally and nationally, as well as keeping abreast of CDC and Southern Nevada Health District guidelines. So with that in mind, I'm going to walk you through what our plans are in which Library Operations Administration and the district's Health and Safety Mitigation Task Force collaborated. Now, the task force is led by Assistant General Services Director John Vino, who is available this evening for questions, as well as Safety Manager Nicole Baker. So we also received input from library operations staff. This is our staff who work on the front lines, as well as guidance from our executive council. So I'm going to share the screen with everybody. And I believe, Allison, did this get sent out to all of the trustees? Okay, all right, so. Okay, so I've got my screen up here, and I'm going to walk everybody through what our proposed plan is. So the main thing, our main goals for reopening is that we'd like to open library services in a phased approach, as I mentioned before, to support a safe opening. We want to refocus immediate priorities, and this means providing access to critical needs, which also means that not all of our services will be available on day one. We plan to enforce social distancing and put limits on gatherings. We don't know what that number is just yet. We're waiting for governor directives for that. We'll also provide ways to assist vulnerable community members, such as seniors or patrons with underlying health conditions. We have plans in place to implement safety measures, including enhanced sanitization, barrier installation, various quarantine methods, and personal protective equipment for staff. We also plan to establish new employee leave guidelines under the guidance of District Legal Counsel. And I think the main thing for us is that we need a plan that's going to allow us flexibility to move both forward and backwards, because we just do not know what is to come once we open our doors. So we don't have exact timelines on this, but we're doing them kind of on a weekly basis. We basically need, our staff needs 1 week to get things in order and together before we actually open to the public. So that's kind of the timeline we're thinking. So administrative staff, what we're proposing is for our exempt staff to return to work on week 1. Like, let's say, for example, if we do open on the May 4th timeframe, we would ask our administrative staff to come back the week prior, which is approximately April 27th. So our teams would return during that time with social distancing guidelines and schedules that also may include some of those staff members working remotely. During that same week, we'd ask our exempt branch staff to return on site, and those are basically our branch managers, department heads, our librarians. All of them would return on site, again, with social distancing guidelines and schedules. So during the week that they're there, they will be processing materials that have been returned during our closure time. Even though our book drops have been closed, a lot of patrons have come back and they are, returning materials on doorsteps, near the book drops, on the outside grounds. Our security guards are collecting those and bringing them into the buildings. So we still have a lot of that. We have a lot of donations that are still coming in while we're closed. It'll also give staff an opportunity to catch up on emails, inter-office mail, and doing work plans with their staff. And then also my team, Library Operations Administration, we plan to go out and meet with staff during that first week to provide training for them, and just to kind of giving them an idea of what's to come. We'll also determine social distancing procedures for the public, and then we'll set the schedule for remaining branch staff. Also, during this 1 week period, our branding and marketing department will create and purchase signage for social that basically enforce or promote social distancing. And our facilities crew will work with our branch staff to set up our measures. So, for example, we plan to move furniture around, set up stanchions, install plexiglass barriers, apply floor decals, and remove seating. So that's kind of a general idea of week one. Now we have more details, that need to be worked out, but just to kind of give you an idea for the staff. One thing I do want to mention, currently our exempt staff, a lot of our exempt staff are working on home. Some of the things that they're doing, they're developing virtual programming right now. We're planning on launching some digital story times shortly. We have other staff members working on other types of adult programming that we hope to bring live on our website soon. Our staff right now is also 3D printing PPE in partnership with Adelson School. And what we're doing is we're printing masks at home, and these are being donated to our local hospitals and other medical facilities. Just to kind of give you an idea, we've got 10 3D printers that our staff have at home, and they're printing on site. And as of this morning, we've printed about 200 masks in the past 5 days. So those masks will be distributed this weekend to the Adelson School. And at that point, they sanitize all the materials and they do some assembling, and then they distribute those to the local hospitals. And I do want to thank Council Welt for his contact there. But some other things our staff are doing at home right now, we have several staff attending webinars. There are a lot of trainings and webinars going on nationally, especially in the library world. So we do have probably, I think we've got about 5 webinars going on every week that our staff, several of our staff members are attending. We have managers working on some staff evaluations at home, even though they don't have access to, they don't have remote access into our system. They're still able to write evaluations from home, because a lot of it is commentary work that they're doing. And then the final thing that they're doing at home is a lot of my managers are reaching out to their staff, and they're doing some team building exercises. They're meeting weekly with their staff members. They're doing conference calls or doing Zoom calls and things like that. So, but for that week one, we would bring all of the administrative staff back into work on site. I don't know if anybody has any questions about that. I'll move on to the branch reopening.
Questions to the end?
I have a question.
Hold off questions till the end.
Okay. So for branch reopening, what we are looking to do is we would like the first 30 days just to have a really a focus on quick access. And what that means is basically getting people in and out as quickly as possible. We foresee that we are going to have a lot of people waiting at our doors on day one. I mean, we're seeing it now. Our parking lots are packed with the Wi-Fi usage. If you drive by any of our libraries all throughout the day, they are completely packed. Our security guards have their hands full right now, kind of monitoring all of the patrons in our parking lots. We're receiving emails and phone calls on a daily basis asking when we're going to be open. We're still trying to help them as much as possible right now via phone. So we anticipate that we are going to have a lot of people waiting to come in. A lot of people do not have computer access. We feel that that's what the main priority is going to be when we open. So during that second week, whatever that is, Ron mentioned maybe May 4th, or if it's longer, pending governor's directive, this is what we're going to be looking at. We're asking for 30 days to kind of do some streamlined services to focus on critical needs. So the first area we're going to focus on is social distancing. And as I mentioned earlier, we're going to be purchasing signage. So the signage will be displayed throughout our buildings, as well as floor decals that enforce the 6-foot social distancing. So you see it now in a lot of the grocery stores, but we plan to distribute those throughout our buildings as well. We'll limit the number of people entering our buildings, again, similar to the grocery stores, whatever that the number is per governor's directive. We're not quite sure. He may say no more gatherings of 10 or 50, or the grocery stores right now are using a 50% capacity for who they're allowing in to their buildings. So that number, we'll have a better idea as we get closer to reopening. And the way we will do that is we'll have the security officers and staff outside kind of managing the line and crowd control. Once the patrons come into the building, there will be limited number of people within designated zones. So we'll go into each of our branches. So during that week one, we'll be working with the branch managers, determining what those numbers are. So say, for example, in our computer centers, we'll say if there are 50 computers in here, maybe that gets reduced down to 25 computers. The children's areas will be another zone. We'll just kind of, we plan to zone out the buildings and then putting a limited number in each of those zones, which our staff will be monitoring those areas. We'll also have limited seating out on the floor, and this is because we're basically seeking no loitering. We want people to be able to come in, get what they need, pick up their holds, get computer access, browse if they need to, and then, be out the door so that the next person that's waiting in line is able to come in. So we will have some seating for some of our handicap users, as well as have seating for designated laptop areas. I mentioned the no loitering. We are proposing no food in the first 30 days. Again, if people are coming in for quick access, we don't want them necessarily sitting there for long periods of time eating. So what that will mean too is that our cafes would be closed for that time period. The 3 square distribution, it depends on, we're going to do whatever 3 square can do. We're hoping to have the 3 square meals distributed again as soon as we open, but it kind of depends on whether or not the schools reopen. A lot of the 3 square, they're currently distributing meals at the schools right now, even though the schools are closed. So we're going to be working very closely with them, but we hope to have that. If we can get that going, they do have the drive up capability where they distribute meals from their truck. So we'll look at that, or maybe our staff can distribute the meals to kids, and then kids would just take it, to go, or they could eat outside, that type of thing. We would be blocking off our study rooms just because, again, we don't want people in there for long periods of time, and our study rooms are also very, very small. So there's not a lot of air circulating in that area. So those would be closed off. Our meeting room rentals and theater usage would continue to be closed. Before we shut down, our programs were canceled through June 30th, and we would intend to keep those canceled. We're also looking at no story times. So, we'll still welcome families in. The children's areas will still be open, but no story time. Sometimes our story time numbers, we get, over 100 people that show up for story times. So we just feel right now in the first 30 days that's something that, we're not going to be focused on. We will have the digital programming online. So we'll direct people more toward our online story times. So, Shanna Harrington, our youth services manager right now, she has conducted a few of the story times. I don't believe we've launched that just yet. And our other youth services staff are currently working on story times as well. And so that will go live hopefully really soon. We do not plan to open up any of our makerspace areas, our specialty tech labs during this 30-day period. We'll have 1 to 2 staff members per service desk, and it just kind of depends on the branch. Some of our branches have larger desks where we could put 2 staff members in. Some of them have very small desks, so in those branches we'll have one staff working at that desk. We're also considering closing down maybe some of our service desk. It just kind of depends on if certain desks are in close proximity, but again, that's going to vary by branch. We will not have any volunteers during the first 30 days. And then I'm going to move on to our available services. Now, I had mentioned we really want to focus on critical needs during this time. So, what we're looking at is helping people with we feel that people are going to be coming to us for unemployment needs, school help. Even though the schools are closed and potentially canceled for the rest of the year, assignments are still going out. Kids still need that help, and a lot of them don't have that access right now. So we're going to focus on school help, even customers that are coming in that need to pay their bills. That's one of the questions. Interestingly enough, some of the phone calls we're getting are for patrons who cannot, they don't have the access. They used to come to the library and they'd pay their power bill on the phone online, or they'd pay their phone bill online using our computers, and they're not able to do that now. So that's one of the things. If we still have our computer available, they'll be able to come in and do that. We're getting a lot of medical questions. A lot of patrons don't understand what's going on right now. They'll call and they're like, why are you closed? Why can't you reopen? So we plan on helping with that area as well. Our call center operations is up and running right now, and what they are doing is they're actually reaching out to a lot of our seniors and just making sure that our seniors know the food resources that are available, unemployment resources, that type of thing. And they're getting a lot of that type of feedback from the seniors, because a lot of the seniors are very, they're scared to leave their homes right now. And so we kind of want to target that as well. And I think our staff can do that through phone reference. But again, so available services. We are looking to limit our computer access to 1 hour. Now, right now, a lot of our computers are already 1 hour access. We do have 2 hour computers in our labs, but just kind of depending how it goes, if we have a whole line of people waiting outside when we open, we want to get as many people in as quickly as possible. Now, we will be flexible within that 1 hour time frame. If somebody's filling out a job application and they need more time, of course we're gonna work with them to extend time. We plan to deploy laptops, Chromebooks, tablets, any device we can get our hands on system-wide. So say, for example, we have about 130 laptops that our adult literacy program uses whenever they give instruction for their classes. And we are going to actually use a lot of their Chromebooks as well as other ones that we have. We use them for homework help centers. A lot of our staff have them in the maker labs. So we're going to pull all of the Chromebooks together. And I think we've got about 150 Chromebooks at this point. We have additional laptops that the IT department has. We have tablets. So we're going to pull all of those resources together and push those out into our branches so that we have more computer access. Because what will happen is in our computer labs, if we say we reduce it to 50% occupancy, then we're only going to have 50% of those computers, and a lot of those are all hardwired. So to kind of help with that, we're going to push these other devices out to give that increased access to our customers. Self pickup of holds, we'd like to bring that back. Since we've closed, people have been asking, where am I on the hold list? Am I going to get my book? They really want to get their book. So we'll be doing self pickup of holds. We'll allow patrons to come in and browse our collection. We will also still conduct phone and in-person reference. Our drive-through windows will still be open at East Las Vegas and Mesquite libraries. Our workforce one-stop career centers, we are hoping to reactivate those. And our e-resources is going to also be available, and we're going to be adding on to it our e-cards. We plan to continue, as well as, as I mentioned earlier, increase our virtual programming. We'll continue our Wi-Fi expansion into our parking lots. If we're not letting everybody into the libraries, within that first 30 days, a lot of people will still want that Wi-Fi access. So, we still feel we'll still have a lot of people in our parking lots, and we'll continue to accept book donations. As far as safety measures, we are planning to allow our staff to wear PPE as well as our customers. We have a no mask policy in place for our customers, but of course we're going to allow it, during this time period. Our general services team is looking at something called John Vino is on the call right now, and I believe Nicole Baker, and I think they're going to tell us a little more about this. Allison, can we get maybe Nicole?
On the line.
Is Nicole on the line?
I'm on the line.
Oh, okay. Okay, so Nicole, if you could tell everyone about MicroShield, what we're planning to do there.
Okay, so I've been investigating a product called MicroShield 360. And what it is, it's an antimicrobial coating that's applied to all high-touch surfaces, desks, the store machines, computers, keyboards, anything you can imagine. And what it is once it's applied to the surface, it pretty much kills germs as they hit the surface. So say, this is a weird example, but say I sneeze all over my hands, and then I put my hand on Allison's desk. The product will
I think we lost Nicole. I don't know if John
I
or
think we got a sense of what she was talking
Okay.
about, though. So, yeah.
Okay, and I believe that the city of North Las Vegas right now is using this. The libraries were sprayed a couple of days ago. Also, there are bus systems that are across the nation that are using this, and I believe some of the airlines are also looking into this application as well. It's non-toxic. We plan to spray all of the library branches, starting with the urban library branches. The outlying branches will also be sprayed in addition to the our service center. So this will really help. I believe the application only needs to be applied once a year. Steve's team is working with them to start applying this next week. So they're going to go into our branches next week with this MicroShield application. Yes.
This is Steve. Let me just jump in, just add a couple things since we lost Nicole.
Okay.
This product looks really good, and you know we've taken a real close look at it, and it registered, and it's FDA and Southern Nevada Health District approved. So it does.
I think we lost him.
We lost you.
I think Steve got muted somehow.
I'm checking.
Okay.
What are you going to do about unsupervised children?
It's non-toxic. You can spray toys with it. You can have it around food. It's used a lot in food establishments and so forth. And it's relatively inexpensive. The price we have to do all of the high-touch surfaces in the libraries, the urban and the outlying branches, including the service center, is about $35,000 to do all those facilities. We are still working up the price to go in and do the larger lecture halls and theaters. That'll be additional. But since we're delaying the opening of those, it's like until at least the end of June, we're putting them as a lower priority so we can get in and get the buildings done. And it is a once-a-year application. So it's something else to be able to do and to be able to point to as far as a precaution we're taking to help with the spread of this disease.
And Steve's team is also installing stanchions, and then they've also purchased plexiglass barriers that will be installed in all of our branches as well. You've seen those probably at a lot of the grocery stores, and I think banks have them. We're also looking at quarantining. We have some processes that we're putting in place to quarantine return library materials, book donations, food donations. And then we'll also increase safety measures for staff that directly handle library materials. So for example, we'll have increased measures for staff that are working with the sorter and the sort machine, or for staff members that are shelving materials. Some of the PEPE we're looking at is we're either going to supply the washable cloth mask for staff, or we'll reimburse staff if they purchase their own. And we'll have gloves available as well. And then for the staff that are working in the sorters, we are looking into disposable aprons for them as well. Another safety measure we're talking about is allowing breaks for staff every hour, or more frequently, of course, as needed for hand washing. So we're really going to encourage that. Some of the staff guidelines and training. We plan to implement new employee leave guidelines per the Emergency Paid Sick Leave Act and the Emergency Family and Medical Leave Expansion Act. So that is being conducted by our Human Resources Director, as well as under the guidance of legal counsel. We plan to conduct staff training related to COVID-19, as well as our new operating procedures and best practices. And our staff training will either be conducted remotely, especially some of our large trainings, or anything, any of our, like, for example, we have a customer service training that we were planning on pushing out here shortly. That training needs to be conducted for all 750 staff members. And so that a lot of that will be done remotely. But some of the smaller trainings could happen in person with proper social distancing. So other considerations that we are still discussing, and of course we would bring this back for your approval at the April 28th meeting. But if we, if we're reducing the number of patrons potentially coming into the branch at any given time, we are proposing to extend library hours of operation. So that could look like the first hour being reserved for vulnerable populations. So currently the library is open at 10 a.m. Perhaps we can open at 9 a.m. For that population. We close at 8 p.m. We may extend until 9 p.m. And then on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, we close at 6, where we are discussing maybe staying open later on those days as well. So on the weekends, having later hours on the weekends. Curbside service is another consideration. A lot of our staff, a lot of these ideas too have come from our staff as well, because everybody wants to get back. Everybody wants to get back to work, and they really want to help. The customers out there, they miss it. They love it. This is their job. So they are proposing to do curbside service, and we are still kind of working out the details of that. But that would be similar to, the grocery stores. You can order your groceries online right now, and you pull up into a parking spot, call a phone number, and the groceries get loaded into your trunk. So something like that, we are investigating. And then the last item would be to extend our Food for Thought program. I believe right now there was an agenda item that was approved for that program to run through the end of May, but we will be bringing this back to the board at a later time to extend the Food for Thought program. So basically that is our 30-day proposed plan. After the 30 days, of course, we are going to revisit the guidelines. I mean, we're going to constantly be looking at this, as the weeks go by. So, whether after 30 days, we may say, look, we need to continue operating this way, or, it may get to a point where we can relax some of the social distancing. We just really don't know yet, so we didn't want to plan beyond that 30 days right now at this point. But you know, I'd like to go ahead and open it up for discussion. This evening, we don't have anything to vote on. We will be bringing this back on April 28th, but we'd like to hear from the trustees as well.
Thank you, Jen. Trustee Bilberry Axelrod, do you have any questions or comments?
Oh, I have so many. I am so sorry, but I have been taking notes. So I'll just start. Actually, they're mostly comments. You first talked about creating story times and virtual story times. There's no need to really reinvent the wheel. I know that there are things out there. I've seen them. I see my friends on social media. There's celebrities, other school districts, perhaps BAM can connect you to what other districts are doing. This needs to be available like now. That's the first thing. Second thing, micro shield immediately. Like, I'm so happy we're doing this. I'm aware of that because I do some work with North Las Vegas. I know they're doing it. And, it's fantastic, and get in there. I think every surface that we can should be covered before we open our doors at all. Sorry, Felipe, I have a list. So, computers, you mentioned maybe half. I don't think this is realistic. That's not, and number one, it's not enough social distancing. And we also have to realize that we're going to have staff wiping down the keyboards and the mouse and every other aspect of where they were sitting. I think that maybe we might want to look into using those study rooms, areas for computers. You had mentioned that, they're not very big, and so there's, spread. This virus is not spread airborne, so the small space isn't the issue. It's the fact that there's hard surfaces that need to be wiped down between each user of those computers. I'm about halfway done. Sorry. Homework help. We looked at being able to do homework help through Zoom or we're doing WebEx, things like that. I know not everyone has internet access, but some people do, and I think that's something that we should look into. People are home. We need to add signage in the browsing areas, reminding people to limit their touching as much as possible. I know when people are browsing, they love to pull down every book. Maybe you don't need to read, the back if you're not going to check it out. 72 hours of quarantining on everything that we bring back. Everything. Two more things. HR, you brought up HR as far as like staff. This is so imperative, and this is more to the board. This is why we need an HR director. James is up to his eyeballs. Get an HR director in there like yesterday. And the last thing is extra hours. I love that idea. I think it's important for the vulnerable populations in the morning. Also, we're heading into summer, so it's still later. So I think that is a good idea, and that way less people are coming in at the same time. But one thing that was not discussed was how are we screening patrons at all? And I think we need to be, even if it's security, having on people. I mean, to be honest, I would like to forehead scan everyone's temperature, but if that's not possible, we at least need on people if they're looking ill, if they're coughing, if they're. It's just reality.
Jen, can you please? I can't hear Trustee Bilberry Axelrod. The feedback coming through from Jen's side is drowning you out a lot. Can you please mute Jen while the trustee's talking?
Well, I'm done now. I can send you my notes, Brian.
I got most of it, but I was losing about every third word you said through feedback.
Thank you very much. Trustee Melendres, do you have any questions or comments?
I like the plan. I think there's a lot of good work has gone into that. I think that once we have the go ahead or whatever, that we need to be mindful as we're doing things, as things are being implemented, whatever that's going to need to look like to make sure that it's working. People are staying really mindful of it. It's really easy to fall back into old habits. And again, whoever the staff that are going to be spraying things down, the whole social distancing, all of that is going to be critical. That staff and whoever, that we're really on top of that. So constant training, constant reminder, because we're going to have to get used to operating in this new way, and critical so that nobody, staff or anybody else, doesn't get sick or whatever from once these things do open up or whatever that's going to look like. So thank you.
Trustee Benavides, any questions, comments?
I do have a couple. So one is, I'll leave this question to the end, but actually, the laptops and the Chromebooks, all those, are those able to be checked out for the day, or how are we planning on distributing those, especially since we have a limited number? Do they have a certain amount of days that they're able to, hours? How does that work?
Jan or Al?
Oh, Allison. Allison, did you unmute me? Okay. Okay, so that's one of the items we're going to have to work out. There are some more there are definitely more details regarding this, but we would be checking this out to the person. They would not be able to leave the library with a laptop. It would only just be for in-house use only. So we would check it out for an hour, similar to the way that we check out laptops right now in our branches. So it would operate the same way.
And so then we would designate areas where they're able to sit and utilize them.
Correct.
Obviously, because we were talking about removing furnishings and sitting areas, but obviously we have to designate some areas for them to be able to utilize these laptops and Chromebooks.
Right, and one of the trustee Bilbray Axelrod mentioned the study rooms being one of the options. We did consider the study rooms, and we can definitely retake a look at that. But we are looking at maybe using our meeting room spaces for laptops, since those will not be utilized during that time.
So my next question is, I know we're providing or reimbursing for PPEs. I would suggest that we get, we buy the PPEs for our employees. They all have the same type of PPEs. It's easy for them to not only be known as an employee of the library, but then we don't risk them not having it or not having the proper ones. So that would be my suggestion, is that we actually provide those PPEs instead of reimbursing or trying to figure out whether they can get them on their own or not.
One danger, may I enter something here? One danger with issuing PPEs is that if someone gets sick while they're wearing it, then that gives them grounds for a suit. Could you address that a little bit, Jerry?
Let me make sure he's unmuted.
Yeah, well, obviously, somebody can sue us for whatever the reason, but we probably could have the employees sign releases, just that we're, providing them with PPEs that is recommended by the National Health Service or Southern Nevada Health District, but we cannot warranty or guarantee that it will absolutely protect them. Something along those lines.
Perfect. Yeah, so that would be something I would like to put on the table. My next one would be the vulnerable hours. I just want to applaud for somebody thinking about that. I'm living with my father now, who's a senior, so I'm very careful about letting him go out anywhere, which at this point is nowhere but a doctor's office. So I appreciate that for whatever staff member brought that to our attention. And then my last question was, how are we opening up every branch that we have at the same time, or are we phasing those out? I know, like, for example, obviously, like, casinos are not going to be opening up their doors all at once. They're phasing those casinos openings as they see fit. Are we planning on doing that, or do we open every branch at the same time?
Some library systems, they are opening some of their larger buildings first, just to kind of see how things go. This is on a national level. We feel that we will be able to open all of our branches at the same time within this, with these limitations, of course. That's just our thought on it. We think we're going to have a lot of patrons in the valley all over, that are going to want library services. And I think it would be really hard for us to determine which branches to open, and, just because of the size. If we were looking at size, it would be probably Clark County and Sahara West, but those may not be libraries that have the greatest needs. So we'd like to open all of our libraries up at the same time.
Okay. And then when we were talking about security and obviously the role that they're going to be taking on, it won't be the typical of them standing by the door and greeting a customer, but them taking a more active role as a library employee. Are we adding more security to our branches? And then who's going to be training those security officers to know what to look for or how to treat customers as they're coming in?
Steve, I don't know if you want to take this, but we did. Oh, okay.
I think, right now they do have a broad slate of tasks that they perform for us. Medical screening is not one of them.
Right.
So we're gonna, if that's something we decide we would like them to do, we'll obviously have to talk to LI Universal about that. They may not want to put their people in that role, but it's just something we'll have to take a look at.
Okay, yeah, that's something to consider, because I'm sure that it's probably not on their scope of duties. And with that, Chair Ortiz, I'm done with my questions.
Thank you very much. Senator Raymaker, do you have any questions or comments?
Hang on, let me make sure she's unmuted.
And things that they need to do for qualifications and what have you, coming and taking temperatures at doorways might be something that we could get, even volunteers for that through the medical schools and what have you, through the MA programs and CNA programs, that we could get them students that way to help with that. These different things that we want to set up and are important. And I think that one of the concerns is there again is, trying to watch everybody at one time. I mean, when you go, when you walk into a store now, it's hard to follow people because people aren't doing what they're supposed to do. They'll start out and they'll walk in and they have good intentions, but having your employees, our staff and what have you, trying to watch everybody and making sure that they follow through on these things, and then remembering everything that everybody handles. I mean, we've got a lot of books, we've got a lot of movies, we have a lot of everything that people are handling, and to making sure that we're wiping down and cleaning everything afterwards. That's just something that they just have to be very aware of things that they have to enforce and make sure that they're taking care of with the sanitizing and different things, because that's putting extra on them as well. But it's so important to make sure that we're taking care of not only, for our staff to be stable, to stay healthy, as well as all of our patrons that come in. So, I'm excited about wanting to open and have all these, services back to people, because there's people that, need these things. It's just, we really have to be careful about what we're doing and make sure that we're, following through. That's all.
Hey, you're muted.
I'm still muted.
Marilyn Francis Drake, any questions or comments?
Yes, first of all, I'd like to thank Jen and the people that worked with her. They were very thorough on a lot of things that would never have come to my mind to start with and so on. I think most everybody's covered most of what I had written down, but I also want to ask, mostly on a personal basis, the volunteers, are we talking library volunteers? Are we talking the foundation volunteers? Are we talking the at least 2 libraries that have functioning bookstores with people in them? Are we talking all volunteers, I guess is what I'm asking. Thank you.
Yes, it would be all of our volunteers. So we would not have bookstore operations running during this time. We would not have the teen volunteers either. Danielle, I don't know if you want to speak to the volunteers at all.
So Marilyn, our thought was no volunteers until we get our library operations set.
That's fine. Thank you. I'll just Rodney.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments?
Okay, she is on the phone, so hang on. I actually need to unblock. Hang on just a second.
Consideration of as many of the things that we can do to protect our staff and the public. I understand that some places do take temperature and stuff, but the truth of the matter is that most of the people, or a larger portion of the public, is asymptomatic, never have a fever or anything else, but yet can spread the virus. I think the mask idea is much better because it tends to spread through mucus or saliva or sneezes or what have you. Did I misunderstand what was said about that bacterial spray? I thought that it lasted, you sprayed everything and it lasted for a year or something. Did I not hear that correctly?
No, that's correct. It's
Okay.
supposed to last at least a year, depending on the surface and I guess how often the surface gets cleaned or touched. But even you can still do your cleaning and disinfecting over the top of this. It doesn't affect or it doesn't remove the product from the surfaces.
Okay. I was glad to hear that. And I do like the idea. I'm very much in favor of extending the hours both early and later for people, because right now we're probably one of the most valuable tools when we reopen to the majority of the public, as far as for their job searches, for their children's studies, to keep their children's mind active, for themselves, and so on. I applaud that thought, and I hope that we're able to do that. There was something else I was going to say. I agree with most of the other people and their concerns, that the other trustees that they've mentioned. I think it's good that we don't have the volunteers in there right away, that we only have our staff. I really like the idea of the library issuing the PPEs, because I think in that way the continuity and all that's very important at this time. I wanted to ask also, when people are coming into the libraries, and you said they could circulate up and down where all the items are in the shelving and stuff, are we going to one-way the aisles of the shelving? Because if you're coming and going, you wouldn't be able to be 6 feet apart. So I hope that that's part that's included, like many of the grocery stores and stuff have done. They have, one-way aisles now, so you can stay the 6-foot distance. And I love the idea that you're going to use the meeting rooms and things like that are larger, so you'll be able to spread people apart. I really applaud the list of things that you've covered, and thank you for that. And that's it.
Trustee Elizabeth Foy, any questions or comments?
Hang on, let me unblock her. Elizabeth?
Okay. Trustee Wilson, any questions or comments?
Excuse me, Chair Ortiz, hang on. Let's ask.
What happened to me?
Oh, go ahead, Trustee Foy. Elizabeth Foy, thank you very much.
Thank you. I just wanted to know what type of discussion or plans or thoughts there have been concerning children that are unaccompanied by an adult or an older sibling or supervisory person. I'm not talking about the high school kid that's coming in for that type of thing. I'm talking about the 10-year-old who's dropped off at the door and mom thinks he can spend the day. These kids are at home for the most part, and many of them are playing with their friends in their neighborhood, whether they should be or not, and they're not social distancing. I'm not sure that when we drop them into the library environment that they're going to suddenly transform themselves in understanding that 6-foot distance. And many families don't acknowledge that children and young people, well, actually people of all ages, can get this virus. So
we would handle that in the same way we handle it now with our unattended children's policy, where we would actually we'd attempt to contact the parents. Hopefully, maybe, we'll see. We're going to have staff outside working with the security guards, managing the lines outside. If staff notice that a child is being dropped off by their parent, maybe, the staff could actually intervene at that time just to let the parent know. Hopefully, if a parent sees a really long line, before the child is dropped off, they will maybe not drop the child off. I understand there are a lot of kids that walk to the library. So the kids that are walking in, they're going to be standing in the lines as well. We will allow the kids to come in, similar to what we do now, but they're going to have to get in and out, type of that quick access type of initiative that we're going after. Basically they need to come in, get whatever library service they need. They can use the computer for an hour. We're going to have the no loitering, that type of thing. And if the parent isn't there, again, our staff would have to call the parents at that time. But we will take a closer look at that for sure.
Yeah, it's very difficult for children to necessarily grasp that as far as the social distancing, let alone the time element, but particularly those that have come and spent an afternoon at the library on a regular basis previously. But it's a problem. I know the supermarkets have a problem with it. I know Costco has attempted to limit a member and only one other person with them because they had children roaming the aisles, and people were freaked out by it. I mean, who knows where the contaminations or the cross, pollination of this is happening. And certainly we want the children, we need the kids, but it's serious. So thank you for your work on all this. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Foyt. Trustee Will.
Well, I appreciate the amount of work that's gone into this, a lot of thoughtfulness in it. I personally find it to be a little optimistic, maybe a lot optimistic. I do not expect we'll be reopening in the first week of May. And even within this 30-day plan and extending beyond that, we already have large chunks of programs that are shut down through at least the end of June. We're clearly going to be reopening in slow steps and slow phases. And I like the thoughtful process to it, but I just don't like, I know we're meeting again in 12 days, but I really am uncomfortable kicking the can down the road on everything that this plan lays out to reopen us in step by step. And we're not addressing the massive hole in our budget that all of this is causing right now. That's my big concern, is that we're just another 12 days of time wasted and we're already a month behind.
Thank you very much, Trustee Wilson. This is for Danielle and probably Matt. We need to look at what partners are out there that need our help right away. How do we reinvent ourselves? How do we become a needed service? So that's not an answer for today, but think about who needs us: site, facility, space, contacts, which partners. And this one's for Jen. Jen, I guess you don't have to tell me now unless you want to, but how are we inviting and telling our partners that are in the library that we're going to go to this plan, and are they going to be part of that plan? One-stop shops, whoever else we have, right? Because they're the ones that are going to be needed the most, getting back to work, getting back to the needed services. So those are the questions that really need to be addressed. And then managing expectations, one with our staff, one with our board, and then of course our constituents, our people we serve. There's never going to be a perfect way to reopen. And I'll say it again, there's no test. There's not enough people to test 3.1 million individuals twice to make sure they're not positive. We can't put our staff in danger by having them test, because then what does that mean? What do they do with it? What are we responsible for? So we do have a very solid agenda to move forward with and start vetting out, okay, where can our staff be most useful if they're not setting up the theater? What can we use them? What can they help us do? And so I'm still concerned that, digressing a little bit, that we did not have our staff remote access in or contact with them. So that's priority number one, whether it's HR or each director making contact with each staff member. Having said that, this was a presentation. It's not a motion, correct? Jerry?
Correct.
Jerry?
Yes,
Okay.
that's correct.
Thank you
Mr.
very
Chair,
much.
I have one question. May I
Sure,
ask
go ahead.
one more question? It's Robin Wadley Meunier. Do we have any type of protocol if one of our staff members in the library, once we reopen, one or all of them, it comes down with the virus? Do we have any protocol of how we're going to handle that?
We're still working on that process with Council Abbott, and then Council Wilt will be assisting as well. But we will have something for you by the April 28th meeting regarding that.
Okay, one of my questions that goes with that is, like when stores have someone, they announce that the, Home Depot in, Istanbul, we had a employee come down with, the virus. I just don't know, that's one of the thoughts that I was wondering how we're going to do that. So thank you. I'll leave that up to Council Welch.
Thank you very much. All right, moving on to our last item, if we can reopen the tabled item. Discussion for possible action to extend the closing of the Las Vegas Clark County Library District past April 16, 2020. Is there a motion to reopen that item?
Trustee Wilson, so moved.
Is there a second?
Shannon Bilbray Axelrod.
Thank you very much. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, so that item's been reopened. Ron, are we going to go back to that, Ron?
Yes, if we could then ask the board to allow us to extend our closure through the time that's mandated by either the governor or the health district. And I agree with Trustee Wilson that we don't want to tie it to both the school district and businesses, but I think that we should listen to what the health district is telling us, and I would appreciate board support on delaying that until the time that we are able to reopen. And that would not be a set time if it was last time, because we didn't think it would last this long. But if you just grant us the right to stay closed until the go ahead from the governor and the health district.
Those may be granted separately. I would rather that we go with the authority of the governor exclusively.
Is there a motion?
I agree with you, Elizabeth, if you want to make a motion to that effect.
I would propose that we follow the guidance of the governor of Nevada in pertaining to our opening, our legal opening, and that we do not be persuaded by any other sources along the way. And that's all I have to.
Trustee Foyt, there is a motion at the bottom of your item. Do you not want to use that, or do you use the motion you just stated?
Elizabeth, take that motion and add the governor.
And then once it's second, I have a question.
Okay, present. Let's see. I don't see it, but okay, if you're sure it's there.
Take out the word schools and add the governor.
The governor is on there. Do you want me to go ahead and make the motion?
Make the motion.
Motion to approve the executive director's request to extend the closures of the Las Vegas Clark County Library District until Governor Sisolak lifts the stay-at-home orders.
I'll second that.
Brian Wilson, second. All right. Questions on the motion?
Chair, I have a
Robin,
question.
Robin
Okay,
Wally,
good.
you had
After
the
you
first
do
question.
that, I do.
Robin,
Okay,
ahead.
well, all right. Well, in your motion, you say lifts the stay-at-home orders. I also have the question, won't he or will he or will we need him to identify libraries as when he does lift orders or open certain things or gradually does a phase in, whatever he chooses and deems, necessary and for the well-being of all Nevadans? Will he have to list libraries? Will we have to get something in writing that says libraries? That's just a question that goes to legal, I guess, along with this motion.
Well, didn't we close based on what the governor said?
I have a question as well. You really should meet before you reopen, regardless of what's happened. So you can do it by, we can quickly set up an emergency meeting.
Agree.
But I think you have to meet and officially do that whenever it happens.
Okay. Robin, does that satisfy your question?
Yes, it does. And thank you. Yes, I like that idea very much.
Okay. Trustee Wilson, did you have a question?
No, I think that's cleared up now.
Thank you very much. Call for the question. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you very much. Are there any announcements at this time? Let me go down the list. Trustee Foyt, do you have any questions, comments, announcements?
I'm working on the change of address for the Enterprise Library.
Okay.
I'm making big progress.
All right, very good. Trustee Melendres, do you have any questions, comments, announcements?
None at this time.
Trustee Shannon, Bilberry Asherrod, do you have any questions, comments, announcements?
To your point, Trustee Foyt, if connect with me because I actually reached out to the post office on your behalf, so we'll have
That's
to.
great. Yeah, I will. I'll call you, Shannon.
Trustee Benavides, any questions, comments, announcements?
Not at this time.
Thank you very much. Trustee Wilson, any questions, comments, announcements?
Not at this time, thank you.
Trustee Raymaker, any questions, comments, announcements?
Not at this time, thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Marilyn Francis Drake, any questions, comments, announcements?
No, thank you.
Don't send Rodney by himself, okay?
Okay.
Trustee Melendres, did I call in? I did. Okay. Our next board meeting is scheduled for Allison.
Hey, about meeting.
I'm sorry, Robin. Is that Robin Wadigunier?
I just want to thank you, Mr. Chair, for handling a difficult meeting with all the technology and some on phone and some on the computers and stuff. And thank Al and Allison and everybody that has worked so hard to make this meeting take place. And I feel almost like I was there, and I do appreciate it, and I appreciate everybody else. And I look forward to seeing you someday soon, I hope.
Thank you very much.
Yes, and thank you all, and I miss you all.
All right, thank you. Our next board meeting, Allison, is when?
Chair Ortiz, could we also put on the next agenda discussion of extending food for thought? Because we don't know when we're going to reopen, but what I would suggest is maybe a full month at least a full month after we reopen. Right now, Three Square, all of the food banks across the country are in dire need of additional support. And this not only would help us build more goodwill with our customers, helps our partner Three Square cope with what they're facing on a daily basis.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you.
Please
We'll
add
put it
that.
on the
And
agenda.
then, Allison, when is our next meeting?
Next meeting will be Tuesday, April 28th at noon. And I will send out the WebEx connection when I do the board packet, which will be next Wednesday, because we have to have 3 business days. And so we'll have that connection there, and hopefully we'll be a little bit stronger on handling that. And then the board meeting after April 28th will be Thursday, May 21st at the Windmill Library or via WebEx. We'll know more as we get closer. And that was the 2 announcements we had.
Thank you very much. Next board meeting on Tuesday, April the 28th, 12 noon, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and look out for emails and so on. Allison, is there any public comment at this time?
No public comment.
Being no public comment, we will adjourn this meeting at 8:30.